Hi, we're Group 4 from Monday 1 p.m. class, and today our research topic is understanding young consumers' perception and decision making in sustainable fashion. So, to begin with, the background and marketing problems. So, this research is developed for Oz Organic Garments, a sustainable fashion brand that targets young consumers in Australia. The company is interested in understanding how these consumers perceive sustainable fashion and how they make purchasing decisions. So we can see that there's a growing interest in sustainable fashion, especially among young consumers. However, while people are more aware of sustainability, their actual understanding of sustainability concept is still quite limited. At the same time, trust in sustainable brands remains low. This is largely driven by greenwashing and lack of transparency of the brand, which make consumers question whether brands are genuinely sustainable or just using it as a marketing tactics. Another key issue is the attitude behavior gap. Even though many consumers have positive attitudes toward sustainability, this does not always translate into actual purchasing behavior. So, as a result, we also see a rising popularity of secondhand as it perceived to be more affordable and accessible sustainable option. Moving on to marketing problems and motivations, research shows that over 25% of Australians are skeptical about brand sustainability claims, which highlight a significant trust issue in the market. Greenwashing further worsened this problem, as it reduced consumer trust and weakened the brand credibility. And importantly, trust plays a critical role in shaping consumer attitudes and purchase decisions. If consumers do not trust sustainability claims, they are less likely to engage with or even purchase from the brand like Oz Organic Garment. So overall, the key challenge for the company is not just raising awareness, but building genuine trust and closing the gap between positive attitude and actual consumer behavior. Next, I'll move on to our research question and objectives. So for our study, we developed two main research questions. The first one is, what shape young consumers' perception of sustainable fashion? This focuses on understanding how consumers interpret sustainability. For example, what they believe count as sustainable and how their perception are influenced by factors such as communication, social media, or personal values. And the second question is, what factors influence their purchase decision across fashion options? Here we aim to explore how consumers make trade-offs between sustainable and non-sustainable and what drives the final decision. For example, price, trust, convenience, or style. Moving on to our research objectives. The first is to explore consumer perception and understanding sustainable fashion. This helps us identify whether there are misconceptions or gaps in knowledge that may affect their attitude. The second objective is to identify trust and credibility factors. Since trust is a major issue in this market, we want to understand that what makes consumers believe or doubt about sustainability claims. For example, transparency, certification, or brand reputation. The third objective is to examine the key drivers and barriers in purchase decision. This include positive drivers such as environmental concern and barriers such as high price and skepticism. Overall, these objectives allow us to gain a deeper understanding of not just what consumer thinks, but also how and why they make decisions, which will be useful for developing more effective marketing strategy in next stage of research.
To better understand how young consumer purchasing sustainable product, we find some previous study to focus on this issue. From previous study, we can see that communication and trust are really important in sustainable fashion. Research shows that when brands provide clear and engaging information, people are more likely to consider buying sustainable products. At the same time, influencer credibility and brand trust also play a big role in shaping how consumers think and decide. Social media is especially important for younger consumers. Like a lot of influencers will put their trend and they bring some trend opinion and product information in social media. So this study suggests that even though people are aware of sustainable, their decisions are still influenced by factors like price, trust, and social influence. This helps explain why there is often a gap between what people say and what they actually do. After we got some viewpoint from previous study, uh, we also do interview to do qualitative approach. For our study, we use in-depth interview to better understand how young consumers think about sustainable fashion. We conduct two interviews within our group, and we also find four interviews from others group to enhance our data to make it more reliable. And our target group was young consumer aged 18 to 30 who are familiar with different fashion options, including sustainable and secondhand clothing. And we use thematic analysis to look for common pattern across the interview. And we also use like we also ask some similar question and to deduct some error from interview. Before we move on for our result, I will briefly explain what is quote, code, and themes. First, we look at the interview transcript and identify important ideas from what participants say. These are shown as quotes. Second, we summarize those ideas into short level, which we call as a code. For example, comment about price or style were grouped into a simple keyword. Finally, we group similar codes together to form a themes. These themes represent common patterns across different participants. Okay, let's move on to our topic. The first thing is value conflict. Many consumers feel that they have no cho- they have to choose from sustainability, price, and style. For example, some participants say they would not buy sustainable product if it was too much and to double the price. It shows that sustainable is not ignored, but it's often less important than price or style when people actually make decisions. In, and we also got another participant say sustainable clothes are nice, but sometimes it's too basic. So we put basic design as our another code. Okay, let's move on. The second thing, which is attitude behavior gap. And we got some quotes say, if everything was the same, I had choose sustainable. And the other one, I care about sustainable, but I still look at the price and style first. So those two mm, those two means consumer are ethical intention and is pride override. And this means that sustainability is often not the main factor in decision making. Instead, it becomes something people consider only when everything else already fits their need. So even though people say sustainability is important, in reality, factors like price, convenience, and style still have a stronger influence.
Moving on to our next two themes. The third theme we identified is transparency and trust. Across different interviewers, we found that many participants are quite skeptical towards sustainability claims. This is mainly because of increasing awareness of greenwashing, where brands make environmental claims that are unclear or misleading. For example, one participant mentioned that they would not trust a brand simply because it says it is eco-friendly. Instead, they said they would only believe it if they could see actual proof, such as how the clothes are produced or where the materials came from. Another participant also pointed out that certifications of third-party verification make a big difference in building trust. So overall, what we see here is that trust is no longer assumed. It needs to be earned through transparency and evidence. The fourth theme focuses on secondhand fashion. Interestingly, many participants did not see secondhand as just a backup option, but as a preferred way to consume fashion more sustainably. One key reason is price. Secondhand products are usually much cheaper, which makes them more accessible, especially for students or young consumers. At the same time, participants also mentioned that secondhand allows them to find unique styles, which is something they value. Some even describe the experience of thrifting as enjoyable or like a treasure hunt. So compared to sustainable brands, second-hand actually offers both affordability and individuality. Individuality. So when we connect these with our earlier themes, we can see a clear pattern. Sustainable fashion is not rejected, but it fails to compete with consumers' value system. In other words, people do care about sustainability, but when they are making real decisions, factors like price, style, and convenience tend to have a stronger influence. Building on these themes, we identify several key insights. First, social media plays an important role in shaping fashion consumption. Many participants mentioned that what they see on platforms like Instagram or TikTok directly influences what they want to buy. This means that even if consumers are aware of sustainability, their actual choices can still be driven by trends and what is visually appealing online. The second insight is that sustainability is conditional. This means that consumers do consider sustainability, but only when other factors are already satisfied. For example, if a product has the right price and the right style, then sustainability becomes an added advantage. But if those conditions are not met, sustainability alone is usually not enough to influence the final decision. The third insight is that secondhand fashion is often seen as a more practical way to be sustainable. Compared to sustainable brands, secondhand requires less effort in understanding claims, and consumers feel more confident about its environmental benefit. At the same time, it also solves the issue of price, which we identified earlier as a key barrier. So overall, these insights help explain why there is a gap between what consumers say and what they actually do. Consumers are not rejecting sustainability, but they are making decisions within a system where sustainability is only one of several competing factors. So based on these findings, we can summarize a few key points. First, sustainability is important to consumers, but it is not their top priority. Second, there is a clear trade-off between sustainability, price, and style. Third, trust is major issue, especially due to greenwashing. And finally, second-hand fashion is often seen as more practical alternative. So based on this, there are several implications for brands. First, sustainability should not be the main selling point. It needs to support a product that is already attractive in terms of price and design. Second, brands need to better explain the value behind the price. At the moment, consumers often only see that sustainable products are more expensive, but they don't clearly understand why. Third, trust needs to be built through transparency. For example, showing how products are made rather than using general sustainability claims. And finally, brands should recognize that they are competing with secondhand. This means they may need to adopt new models such as resale platforms or trading programs. These findings also provide a direction to future research. Future studies can test how price influences purchase decisions, whether trust increases purchase intention, and how consumers choose between secondhand and sustainable brands. So, to conclude, the study shows that sustainability does matter to young consumers, but only when it fits into how they already make decisions. So for brands, the challenge is not just to promote sustainability, but to make it work with existing consumer priorities. In the end, this is our references, and thank you for your listening.